Hi, my name is Delphine Labbe, and I'm a professor in the University of Illinois at Chicago in the Department of Disability and Human Development. Today, I'm going to present though about my postdoctoral fellow research that I conducted at the University of British Columbia in collaboration with Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, Canada. And the title is Sharing Knowledge with Community Stakeholders to Promote Inclusive City. And I'd like to start with this quote from one of our participants, which says, "The accessible route is always the longest." And this is something we wanted to change with our research project. So the context is that in Canada, there's 2 million people living with mobility limitation, and many of them are using mobility device to move about in their community. And accessibility directly influence how they are perceived, how they are treated, and how they can interact with their community. And lack of accessibility really prevent them from fully engaging in the society. Despite there were some efforts from policymakers and planners to increase accessibility, there's still concern of how the public designs of space are still inaccessible and prevent people from really people with disability from really using them. Therefore, it is crucial to include the perspective of people with disabilities in urban planning, as they can draw from their lived experience to suggest the most appropriate solutions to address their needs. So that was the goal of our this research project that I'm going to talk about, which was enabling mobility and participation among those with disability, or DEMENT for short. And the goal of that research project was really to increase accessibility of the urban environment for mobility device users. It was a community-based participatory research, which means that the mobility device users were involved as co-researchers in the data collection, data analysis, and the development of knowledge mobilization, which will be the main goal of that presentation, the main focus of that presentation. And that the DEMENT project was conducted in 2 provinces in Canada, in Quebec City and British Columbia, but I'll focus on British Columbia for today. So the DEMENT project really wanted to answer a different research question, which was, where do people, mobility device users go, and what activity do they do when they go to those places? What are the perceived environmental facilitators and barriers in their environment? And what are the improvements that they would like to see happens in their community to improve their mobility and social participation? And to answer those research questions, we did conduct semi-structured interviews, and we did a photo voice with the participants. We did environmental neighborhood unit audit with using the SWAN tool. We used GPS and trip tracker, and we also did some accessibility assessments of public building. So we had all those great data, and we presented that to our advisory committee, which was mostly comprised of mobility device users. And they tell us, this is all great, but how are you going to share it? And to whom are you going to share it? And they really believed that it was important that we targeted urban stakeholders. So that's what we decided to go on and develop some knowledge mobilization strategies. So what is knowledge mobilization? This is a synonym being used for knowledge transfer or knowledge translation, which is mostly used in Canada. And it is about getting the right information to the right people in the right format at the right time. And knowledge mobilization is used to reduce the gaps really between the knowledge users and relevant empirical knowledge, in the goal to develop evidence-based action and intervention based on that knowledge. And it's been shown in the research that providing decision-making stakeholders with timely access to relevant evidence-based knowledge really helps to target user needs more effectively. In our case, people using mobility device. So for our mobilization strategies and process, our goal was to really raise awareness and showing the possible impact that the urban stakeholders could have on the mobility and social participation of mobility device users. And we developed our strategy based on a 5 principle from Labbe and colleague, which is that you have to identify who are you targeting. So who is your targeted audience? In our case, it was the municipal stakeholders, but also community organization and the general public. What should be transferred? So what kind of information, what message do you want to share? So this is something we identified with our participants. shared by whom, you have to have a credible messenger. For us, the messenger was the person, the mobility device users that were co-researchers in our project. What is the process in supporting communication infrastructure? So that's the question where you decide, how do you share that data? How do you share the knowledge that you gathered? And you can use different kind of medium, and I'll present what media we chose for our project, and how is it evaluated? And this is a part that is often forgotten in knowledge mobilization, knowledge translation research. And this is what my presentation kind of focus on mainly. So what kind of strategy did we develop in terms of knowledge mobilization for our demand project? So we developed 3 kinds of strategies. We had a video series, which was highlighting the 3 different cities that were involved in the British Columbia side of the study. And they were all targeting specific things in the cities, but also were made to be highlighting common challenges. We also developed photo exhibits and on an interactive game, and all those projects were developed with the participants. They were the one, the co-researchers, they were the one telling us what should be the key messages, and to whom and how we should share it. In terms of the evaluation, we followed 5 principles from phasing colleagues. Mostly those principles are to making sure you develop an evaluation that could apply to multiple end users. Identify goals and expected outcome before developing your strategy. So this is why we chose the goal of raising awareness first and then develop our strategies based on it. And we chose indicator of outcome based on it as well. Evaluate both the process and the outcomes, and make the evaluation an integral part of the knowledge strategy, mobilization strategies, and use mixed methods. For us, the choice of indicator was based on the knowledge translation planning template that was related to the outcomes that we chose. That template has been developed by Barwick from Canada, really useful template. This is only just a little part of that template where it target the KD impact and evaluation. And what you see in red are the indicators that we chose to measure with the evaluation. So we use a mixed methods for that evaluation. We use journals, observation, and questionnaire. For the journal, it was mostly to document reach, usefulness, and collaboration indicators. For example, the number of people that were reached, the number of video that were shared, the number of participants in our activities or seeing our strategies. Observation, so in terms of the use, the collaboration and practice change indicators, did we observe some change in practice when we were interacting with the municipal stakeholders, change in attitudes or new collaboration? And we used a questionnaire with closes and open-ended question that looked more at the usefulness and use of indicator and use indicators, which was focused more on like perceived usefulness, maybe the intention to use, the satisfaction with the knowledge gained. So what are the findings from our evaluation? So based on the journal and the observation, so in terms of reach, so that's really just looking like, who did we reach? How did we reach it? It's more about the process. So we send direct invitation to a variety of stakeholders, as well as indirect invitation through e-newsletter, and posted on different websites of community organizations. We also looked at how our activities were covered in traditional and social media, such as Twitter and Facebook. And we were covered in both of them. Also, we look at the usefulness of strategies. So how many people did come to our strategies and our events? And so the 3 strategies were presented, the videos were available online, but the strategies were mostly presented as part of community outreach events. We organized the first one where we invite our co-participants and a lot of municipal stakeholders, but then it was really popular. So we were invited to other outreach events organized by the municipality stakeholders themselves, or they were giving us space so we can present our strategies again. So we reached out a total of 236 participants. And on top of that, we were invited to present to city teams, to local citizen advisory committees, and also to one community-based organization for elderly in Chicago. In terms of partnership and collaboration, So the researcher and the mobility device users that were the co-researcher were also invited to be part of citizen committees. We were requested to use knowledge mobilization strategies in other contexts with older population or with immigrant population. Also, we developed a stronger collaboration for a larger grants to pursue, develop, and test intervention to increase accessibility. This project was just recently funded. We have 7 years to test different kind of accessibility strategies. And also in terms of practice change, there was some interventions that were developed with some city partners. For example, with one cities, we trained the construction workers on how to reduce their impact on accessibility. This project is still ongoing. In terms of the questionnaire results, so after all events or every time participants were seeing one of the activities, they were invited to complete that questionnaire. So the 3 strategies were deemed useful by all the participants, and there was not really a difference. There was not statistical difference between the 3 strategies. However, the strategies were perceived as more useful for urban planners and social planners than the other type of knowledge users, while they were judged as less useful for people with disability and rehabilitation professionals. That kind of reflect also what our advisory committee was already telling us, where we should target the municipal stakeholders and not people with disabilities. And there was some open-ended questions. So the qualitative analysis of those questions revealed that there was some common impact and some unique impact depending on the strategy we were looking at. For example, the use of visuals was highlighted as something very useful for the video and photo exhibits. And the interactive game was seen as very great in terms of interactivity and role playing, and that was useful to learn more about accessibility and people lived experience of mobility device users. And as you can see, which is really great, the 3 strategies were identified or perceived as helping to understand better the barriers and challenges experienced by people with disability, which was the goal of our knowledge mobilization process. This is a quote from one participant saying how the visual aid triggered an emotional response and made it very clear immediately what the barriers were and how easy it would be to fix them. And here she was talking about the photo voice, the photo exhibit. So for us, what we learned and what the key messages that we'd like to share here is that using interactive medium was really a strength. So, and the participant really told us how they enjoyed being at the community outreach events and interact while they were looking at our strategies and they were gaining all that knowledge. It really allowed like those face-to-face interactions that are being shown to really help to persuade stakeholders of the importance of the knowledge being shared. And also a creation of a safe space for exchanges where people can talk about data and about their personal experience, but maybe with a little distance and without being in terms of the municipal stakeholder, feeling under attack or being defensive. The variety of media conveyed a message differently, like I just showed you. So it was great to use different kind of strategies. And the activities were really seen as sharing the perspective of the user, but also as sharing evidence-based. It was clear for the participants that we were really sharing data, and it was research data. So that was really important for us. And I think it highlighted the importance of understanding and why knowledge mobilization evaluation is important, is that allow you to know the knowledge that the user need to know to create evidence-based action plans that will respect and complement their own expertise. And that was really important for us, that the municipal stakeholders felt that we were there to help, there to help them. And that we didn't want to highlight all the bad thing we did. And that was really important. For example, in the videos, one of our co-researcher with disability really mentioned that she would not be part of the video if we only highlighted bad things or barriers, and that it was really important that we showed what the cities were doing well really embark them with us and convince them that it was important. So if you're interested to know more, there was a recent publication in 2020. This is the link. I think you'll be able to click on it. And I'd like to acknowledge our funding from the Canadian Disability Participation Project, and it was supported by the Social Science and Humanity Research Council of Canada. Thank you very much.